What's up, y'all? What's happening? Welcome to the Real Estate Power Play. We are here every Tuesday, 11 o'clock Central, 12 o'clock PM, and that's on that East Coast time. And we're ready to roll forward, guys. We've had a great time. I've had a great morning, had a little intro conversation with Tom earlier. For those who don't know Tom, you're going to get some awesome highlights of it today. And Marty, how you been, dude?
I'm doing awesome. I'm doing great. I'm real excited. This topic is right in my wheelhouse right now with, our company pivoting to a commercial. And I mean, I'm just really excited to talk to Tom. I want him to introduce himself in just a second, but, just talking with Gabe and, Gabe, us talking the last couple of years, you've mentioned Tom so many times as someone who's a mentor and really has become an inspiration just for me from hearing stories. So now I get the real guy at the real time. So let's go. I'm excited as hell.
So this is gonna be exciting, guys. So we have a great topic. For those who saw, I did a video a couple weeks back with Tom. Tom just really hit it hard and let people know his story, and then just different ways of pivoting and getting involved in the current market and seeing what's happening in the future. And so we're talking in, July of 2022 for those who are listening later. And so we are in a unique time of this world. Get off it. I have a bunch of text messages and people messaging me like, man, that's awesome. Good story, different stuff. And I'm like, man, Tom, it'd be great to go over the financial side. I mean, this is what he does. For those who don't know, he runs ILS Cash and probably 10 or 12 other businesses, and really getting stuff at a higher level of going, this is how you can plan out for a successful business, right? And grow your business forward. And so we're like, let's do it again. So here we are. We got Marty. We're ready to do this. Tom, for those who don't know you, because we have people in New York, Michigan, Florida, all over Texas, who some people might not know of who you are and what you do. Just quick review of who you are.
I'm a serial entrepreneur. That's what I am. I'm a family man. We run a family business here. As you said, I don't know how many companies I run, but it's got to be 10, 12, somewhere in there. And I'm able to do that because a lot of our family members work with us in the family business. And aside from that, one of my superpowers, and I only have a couple, is I'm really good with people, and I'm really good at attracting quality individuals. And we've put together a really high level management team that gets, so I get the opportunity to sit here on my back patio, and this is what I call work every day. I don't do any day-to-day in any of the companies. That is a rule of mine. But we have some really good people that we are able to provide good employment, good benefits to, and so forth. And that's really rewarding for me at this point in my life. Back when Gabe and I met, I was in the trenches, doing the day-to-day, going out and looking at houses and buying crappy houses and, hiring the subs to go in and fix them up and clean them up. And, I was heavily involved in the leasing process for all of the houses and apartment complex units that we had. But as you grow, hopefully as you grow, you're building a foundation that allows you to continue to move up the ladder. When we're in the corporate world, everybody talks about moving up the corporate ladder, but then when we get self-employed, we don't ever talk about that. Mm-hmm. And I really just used that same strategy of moving up the corporate ladder, except it was my corporation. Mm. So that's kind of who cool. I am and what I'm about. So we'll take it anywhere you want to take it, guys.
That's awesome. Guys, for those who are listening live right now, if you guys have questions, let us know. We'll be happy to ask those to Tom. This topic this morning for those who don't see it on here is this: how to be bankable in this current market. We all know that things are starting to shift around. How do you do it at a higher level where you're looking at getting into commercial and some other stuff? We're going to pull out some stories from Tom of like how he was able to do it, how he's seen others do it. With just from his experience. And so, Tom, let's just jump into it. One of the questions that we're just talking about is when it comes to just being bankable in general, right? As far as a business owner and a real estate investor, going from stage to stage to stage, from the different gears that you go through, what are some of the top things that you're going, I see people missing these key points that actually it's not really hard to do. These are just a couple things that they might need to tweak.
Yeah. So, to be bankable, there's really three parts to it, right? First is your credit score. So if you've got a crappy credit score, and believe me, when I got into real estate, I did. And, for those that don't know my story, you can go to my website and you can read all about it. It was a bad story. We'd lost our business when we were in financial planning in the 2007 credit bubble. And so, we were bankrupt. We lost everything. My wife and I worked together in the business. So when we lost that, we had no income. There wasn't, like my spouse had a good job and, was none of that. We worked together as a team. So when we lost it, we lost everything. When we went through that, obviously we have no cash. We have no credit because that's been trashed.
How bad was this? Was this
how bad?
Were you just losing everything was lost or what during that?
Well, I walked out of the house one morning to go to go look for a job, and my car was gone. And it wasn't stolen; it was repossessed. There were tire marks where the front tires were drug out of the driveway. So, I mean, when I say we started with nothing when we got into real estate, I'm not talking about Hillary Clinton when we left the White House, we were broke. I'm talking about real freaking broke, real. We didn't know how we were going to buy groceries. We weren't able to pay our rent. We were evicted from the rental we were living in. We were evicted from the office that we had our financial practice in.
Wow.
I'm talking about that kind of broke. It's a whole different one than she experienced, I'm pretty sure.
Guys, if you're listening to this, then there's you're getting a guy who's going to literally started from less than zero. I mean, this is
$65,000 less than zero.
Wow. You can go way below zero, right? You can start at zero, which is not too bad. But if you're going, you can always go below zero. Tom, this is really, really good because now I think a lot of people are always, when we have guests on, we don't really get into the backstory a lot of times. And then it's kind of, well, this person was probably just always this way, or they were always this good, and so this foundation. I'm just really excited. So just keep going, buddy.
Gabe asked me to tell the story, and I'm like, geez, Louise, I've told this story so many times. I don't really want to relive it again.
I bet. But it's important, though. It's important.
It is where we started. So when we talk about being bankable, I can talk about this from experience because I wasn't. So the question, is how do you get bankable? And it's simple. You got to have a good credit score to be bankable. Bankers don't like risk. Bankers will not take risk, period. In fact, there's a joke that says bankers only lend to people that don't need money. But it's funny because there's some truth to it, right?
Right.
You're really struggling. If you're in a bad way and you need a loan, don't go to a banker. They're not going to help you because that is risky for them and they're not going to take risk. So having a good credit score is number one. And number two is having good verifiable income. Good verifiable income. Well, a lot of us real estate investors don't have that for years in this business, right? It's, I mean, yeah, we're eating. Yeah, we have income, but it's not steady and it's not verifiable a lot of times.
Yes.
Particularly if you own a lot of real estate, you've got depreciation. So then, and I'll give you the third one, and then I'll give you a funny story that really will hone this down to the truth. The third one is net worth. They love to see net worth. They love to see net worth. And more particularly in that net worth, they want to see liquidity. They want to see liquid net worth. Again, that kills us in real estate a lot of times.
Right.
Because, I mean, I was a multimillionaire and had no liquidity at one point. When we were growing, we went from negative $65,000 net worth to, by the end of our third year, we had a $1 million net worth. We were millionaires in 36 months, but we still weren't liquid, right? Right. We would have had to sell off everything in order to have accumulated that cash.
Right.
And bankers do not look at your equity in your real estate as cash. They just don't,
Right.
because they consider it an illiquid asset. So funny story, my wife and I, throughout the years, and I don't remember what year in our career it was, she says, you know what, we want to refinance our house, the one I'm sitting in right now. We bought it with a private money loan and our cash. So the private money loan was only $160,000, $165,000. The rest we put in cash. And this was bought as a flip. It had been fire damaged, so we completely redid the whole thing. We put like $450,000 in cash in it. We've got this other $165,000 on a loan to a friend of ours, and we're paying a high interest rate because it's a private loan. And she's like, "Let's refi it." I'm like, "Yeah, certainly we will be bankable now." Now, by this time, we had still never used a bank loan. Bought all this real estate, over 400 units, never used a bank loan, always private money. And so she goes to the bank where we had, at that time, over $500,000 in cash in various accounts. We had over a $10 million net worth at that point. We had over a 720 or 50 credit score each. So, right, all three of those, boom, boom, boom. Credit, net worth, liquidity, all great, right? They turned us down.
What the
A
hell?
$165,000 term loan with no cash out. Why did they turn us down? They called us back and said, "Look, we've looked at your tax return." At that point, it was probably like 250-page tax return. And they said, "We don't understand it. We don't think you have enough money to live. We don't understand how you live." Yet everything we owned, we paid cash for. We had no personal debt whatsoever, and still don't. We don't buy on credit. I take a vacation a month. Now our liquidity is well beyond what it was back then. And finally, we now are bankable. Finally, now we are bankable. We just bought a shopping center.
Wow.
We're able to get a bank loan on it, and decent rates, decent terms, and everything. It took and I'm not going to go into my current numbers, but it took an extreme amount of all three of those things
That's
to
crazy.
get us bankable.
Well, give us the good news, Tom.
Good news is, you don't need banks.
That's
Good news
it.
is, you don't need banks.
That's what we needed to hear. That's the beauty.
If anybody is living proof of that, I am living proof that I would say we bought probably, I quit counting after about 15 million. I would say we probably bought $18 million worth of real estate. That's purchase price, not its value. It was valued way more. But we probably paid over $18 million in real estate before we ever got a bank loan. And we did that through using private capital.
Love it.
Capital. There are so many ways to buy real estate. So you hear people say you don't need money to buy real estate. That's a lie. Okay. It does cost money. What the truth is you don't need your money to buy real estate. And that's the distinction that I think we ought to make.
Can we go down that road? I'd like to stay there for a second because, all right, so is it, you hear a lot about you don't need your own money, and I'm a big fan of OPM. I'm so glad that I started this business with other people's money, and I was okay with that day one. Tom, what is it? What is someone looking at? You're obviously, one of your many businesses is a lending company. Are you looking strictly at, is it the deal that is what is the most important? Is it the person that is asking what is most important? Yeah. Okay, so go ahead.
Well, that's an interesting question. One I don't get asked very often. There's two ways I look at our lending company. And I was talking to a broker yesterday, a money broker, and he brought me a couple of deals, and I passed on one of them, and I told him I was interested on the other, and he said, "That's really interesting. Nobody else that I've taken those deals to has liked that particular deal. Why do you like that deal?" And I said, for me, I look at deals two different ways. And the first way is it a good risk for the company, right? That's the first thing. So if I think it's a good risk for the company, then obviously I want that deal. I want as many of those as I can get. But I might also like the deal if I like the property. So if I like the property, but, Gabe is a horrible risk, let's say, I might still do that loan. Because like I told him, I said, Brad, when I look at this deal, if they pay me as agreed, I win. If they don't pay me as agreed, I win. I like that. I like stacking that deck with a two-headed coin, right? So if I don't like the property and I would not want to own the property, then I'm strictly going to look at that deal from a risk basis, right? Because I don't want to own it. So I'm looking for a good quality risk on this thing. In other words, not as much risk. But if I wouldn't mind owning it, then I may look at it in an entirely different way. And that's really how a lot of private lenders look at things. The problem is in today's market, there aren't very many private lenders. There aren't very many true hard money lenders who lend on the hard asset, right? And that's what we're really talking about. Hard money gets its name not because it's hard to get or it's hard to work with. It gets its name because it was defined as hard asset lending. And it has just been shortened through the years to hard money lending. But there aren't very many hard asset lenders anymore like me who can look at a deal and say, you know what, I don't give a crap if I own this property. Cool. Here's what I would lend on it because that's what I would pay for it if I were buying it. And that's how we lend. That's how a true hard money lender lends. There just aren't very many of them in the market anymore.
That's so good. First of all, I've been borrowing hard money for like 7 years and I never knew that that's why. And I was always like, it's not hard to get. So I thought maybe the interest rates were a little, those are hard. That's hard money. That's really good, man. That's so interesting. And then the other part from what I'm hearing from you is that there aren't a lot of people that look at the deal and go, hey, maybe even a best case scenario, you don't pay me. Right. I think it's important for our listeners to remember, try to get in the heads of the person that they're trying to borrow money from, or just lenders in general. And that's a big part of it. That's very, very good. Very interesting. So I love that. Very good.
So Marty, do you know why there aren't a lot of true hard money lenders left in the country?
No.
It's simple. They all gravitated to taking cheap money from banks and from Wall Street. So when you take that money as a hard money lender, because I've been offered it many, many, many times over the last 7 years of doing, private lending. I call my company a private money lender because I don't want to be associated with the so-called hard money lenders that aren't really hard money lenders anymore. The reason is they've all taken this cheap money that's been offered to them through local banks and through Wall Street credit facilities. And this money they get really cheap. And then they turn around and lend it out to you, the real estate investor. The challenge is when you take money from a bank or Wall Street, guess what? It comes with strings. So the lender is no longer the decision maker. The capital source is the decision maker. So the capital source, say a Wall Street credit facility, they will say, here's your box. Marty, here's $20 million. You go ahead and lend that out to your friends and family that are doing real estate investing. But here's your box. This is the only thing that you can lend on. And you think, wow, well, I'm getting it for this. I can sell the money for that. Man, that's a great arbitrage. Okay, I'll take those strings. I never took those strings. My business partner and I sat in a banker's office. He offered us a nice credit line. And we walked out and my partner's like, man, Tom, you don't even look happy. You understand, we just got more money than we have in our whole portfolio offered to us. We've more than doubled in an hour with this guy. And I said, yeah, but we gave up our individuality. We gave up the right to decide what we lend on and what we don't. And we just became like every other hard money lender in town. Literally, we all have the same product. If I take this deal with this banker, I don't have any individuality anymore as a company. I can't brand myself differently. We all have the same product, coast to coast. And he looked at me and this is the first time I realized that my partner had faith in me as much as I had in him. He looked at me and said, you're the marketer, you're the visionary. If you don't think we should do this, we won't do it. And I'm like, yeah, but we need the money. We're out of money. He's like, we'll find another way. And fortunately we did. And today we have over $100 million on the street. And we have never taken a bank line, and we have never taken a credit facility. We've raised it through 100% private capital with zero strings. So we say yes or we say no to every single deal. We are the ones that decide, not somebody on Wall Street, not somebody in California, and certainly not somebody in a banker's office across the street.
I love
They've
that.
never done before. They've never owned anything before. How the hell are they going to decide what a good deal is or what a bad deal is in our profession, right?
Absolutely. And what a win for the people who do work with you. What a win for them. And what a win for you too, that you can then be the one that's in decision of, if that's something you're going to lend on or not. And it totally makes more sense now that, that you guys are having the success. Well, there's a lot of reasons I'm sure why you're having success, but that's an even fundamental reason why guys like you are people who people want to work with you instead of, the person that is behind the you said, the strings and everything. And you're like, how is this person not lend on this? You'd be happy to lend on those deals, Tom. Exactly. So that's fantastic. Very, very cool. Very good.
I love to see the excitement going on here, guys. So we went over some of that. We talked about just the bankability, right? Which we've all talked about today. It's not easy to do. And actually, just from my own experience, like you can actually have a team member just trying to help you become bankable, and they could be doing it 24/7. I mean, they could be doing it all the time, trying to move. I know good sized companies that are like, look, dude, we got to use this type of financing. And it's like, man, you hired a person just to do that. Why don't you just go borrow money? Oh, I will never borrow money to go do that. And I'm like, that's what the bank is doing. Like, what's going on here? Like, think about it. What's the end goal?
Well, Gabe, it goes deeper than that even. That decision that we made like 6 years ago not to take that bank line, there was another reason. And this is going to tie into why you wanted me on today anyway. The other reason I didn't want to take that line, number one, we'd lose our individuality, and I didn't want to do that. But number two, there was another reason down the road that I was fearful of. And that was, I understand how banks work. I understand how bankers think. And I know at the first sign of market risk, they will jerk those lines out from under these hard money lenders just as fast as they gave them to them. And we had a glimpse at that during COVID. When the shutdowns happened in March of 2020, a lot of these credit facilities, in particular from Wall Street, paused their lines. It froze hard money lenders nationwide. And it was so bad, our server crashed because of the deal flow, the applications that were being put on to our website. It crashed our server. It went fivefold over any record we had ever set. Our IT manager is our son, and he calls me up apologizing. He's like, we weren't supposed to be to this level for 2 more years. And he's like, here we are. April 2020 was a record that still stands in our company for app flow. And it's not because we were great. It's because all the other guys were shut down. Wow. And they were shut down, depending on which company we're talking about, 30 to 90 days, depending on which one. We know that that's how they're going to act. That's how they're going to react. So we are ready and we are positioned for the inflation we are seeing, for the recession that I believe we're already in, and for the long haul financial issues that I believe our country is facing. And all we're going to do during that time is grow. We're just going to grow because most of our competitors are not going to be able to lend, or they're going to have to figure out how to retool their companies entirely for capital. And we're already there. We did it the hard way, but we did it sustainably. They did it the easy way, but it is not sustainable full market. Not sustainable for a full market cycle.
This is a question that you're hitting on that I wanted to kind of just a segue into the next thing is like, you're saying that maybe Are you saying that mainly as like the lender side of it, with the ILS side of things? How are you looking at with your other 20 businesses that you have, saying, okay, now I know, since you've already gone through that before? And for those who don't know, I mean, real quick, we got to touch it because I don't think Marty knows either, is that like during the peak of your buying cycle, when things were hitting the bottom, you were closing, I forgot what the number was. It was like 30 every something, 40 something days, or what was it? Yeah.
We were buying an apartment complex every 48 days. And we did that for 22 months.
Yeah. So guys,
so
this is like
the idea is, if you want to build wealth, you do that in a down market. You want to make money, you do that in a rising market. So we've made a lot of money in the last few years, the last 5, 6, 7 years, because we've just been in a straight rising market and money has been easy to make. Everything has been predictably easy. So if you've made money in the last 7 years, great, pat yourself on the back, you've done okay. But that does not guarantee you that you'll be in this business 3 years from now. It doesn't, because you haven't seen a down market yet. You don't know what that looks like. And you got to get around the old guys like me that have seen that in your neighborhood, in your market, and sit them down, buy them a lunch, because there's stuff you don't know that you need to be preparing for.
This goes into a question that one of the guys has, Tom, and one of the questions is talking about, and this is a guy that you know, he could literally call you if he wanted to, but we'll ask it anyways. So what do you need to do to prepare? Events will happen soon. What percentage of your net worth should be cash or transferred to cash? Now, I would like to say my point of view, and then I would like to hear your point of view. The reason why I want to say mine, because I like to hear that if I'm wrong, Tom definitely lets me know if I'm wrong. From the old guys the guys that are seasoned, that I bought lunches for and stuff like that, it's just baffled me how they they like cash, right? And I'm going, why do you like so much cash? Now, I see it. Their words are, I rather take the cash loss of the inflation for 1 year than to not have any money during that season, and now I can't buy up anything. And I was like, okay. And they're some of them are my lenders, so they're like, I'm doing stuff, but their mentality was different. I'm going, well, why don't you put it to work? Yeah, I'll put it to work on your projects. But the mentality was just different. And now I'm starting to see the light of going, they rather have that available now. Like, Gabe, when's that project done? In 2 months from now? Okay, I know that I'll have $1.5 million of cash, right? And I'm ready to pounce. And they rather look at it that way. Now, I don't know where I sit in all that specifically, but just to get your insight on it, what is your take on it?
So I don't think the question, the way it was worded and structured, is answerable, because everybody's in a different position, like you said. Everybody's in a different season in their career.
That's good.
So there isn't one blanket answer that would cover everybody on the call. But I will tell you this, a good friend of mine who texted me this morning and said, hey, I'm sitting on a lot of cash right now. I'm thinking about paying off a couple of my rental houses to increase cash flow. Do you think that's a good idea? And I know his situation fairly well because we're such good friends. So I gave him a more direct answer than what I'm going to give to an audience like this, where I don't know your situation. But I said, honestly, given where you are and given where we are in the market, I probably wouldn't, particularly if you're paying 5% on that money or 6% on that money or less, right? And the reason is because your inflation adjusted charge for that money is still negative. You're still not paying anything for that money. If the interest rate is 6% and inflation is 9.1, it's still a good deal. You're still paying back the bank with inflated dollars. You're still making arbitrage on their money before even making money on the freaking property you bought with it.
So good, Tom.
You're double arbitraging. So now, if he'd have said, hey, I got a 15% loan over here, should I pay that off? I'd have said, yeah, you probably should, because that's a different scenario. But right now, cash is king. Now, I understand on social media, everywhere, all across the country, everybody has got this new phrase, cash is trash, because of inflation. I will take a 9% hit on inflation to be able to buy a property at a deep, deep discount because I had cash. Does that make sense? I mean, case in point, we just bought this shopping center last month or a couple of weeks ago in Texas here, and we bought it and walked in with 1.5 million in equity as is. 1.5 million in equity. If I had to sit on a little bit of cash on the sideline and lose a little buying power to inflation, do you think I overcame that with that shopping center? That's before we raise rents, before we do any of the things we're going to do to add value to that center. That's walking in. That's the kind of stuff that you're going to see. Now, it's still rare to be able to find those kind of deals right now. I ain't going to lie. But those deals are going to become more and more and more available to those with cash. In fact, banking may get to a point where you have to buy cash because banks freeze up and don't lend. I saw somebody commented on here that hard money lenders are already tightening up. Hell yeah, they're tightening up because their lines are tightening up. Their lines are coming from Wall Street. And open Fox News app or any of your news apps on your phone and tell me what the first 5 articles are. They're all about the impending doom and gloom of the U.S. economy. Right. That has an effect on the psyche of these guys with the Wall Street funds.
I think one of the biggest takeaways I've had so far is, and because what you were just saying even enforced it even more, was that in the last 6 years, Tom, like what you were saying is people have made a lot of cash. They've made a lot of income, high earning power has occurred here. And what's going to happen in the next 3 years, or what happened, in 2006, 7, 8, 9, is that's where you build the net worth.
That's right.
I love that. I love that. Right. So this is where it's like, guys, pay attention, stack your cash. And you're so right. We've always heard that term, cash is trash. I've used it. And now I'm going, what a dummy. It's not true. I mean, yes, in some cases, but no, it's really like, if you're going to buy at a deep discount, cash is the most valuable thing in the world, because it's going to get you that, that return of a property that's going to make you so much money in the next couple of years. So this is, I love that, Tom. That's great.
You look at it, I'm a gun guy and a hunter, and I look at it as ammo. Cash is my ammunition. Yes. If I'm going to battle, man, I want as much of it as I can have, right? And that's what cash is. It's your ammunition to go shopping. It's your ammunition to build your net worth. My wife and I built our entire net worth in about 22 months. That's the other thing people don't understand about market cycles. We built the bulk of our net worth in 2011 and 12 when we were buying all those apartment complexes so fast. After that, incrementally, we've been able to grow it, but we've never been able to grow it as fast as we did at that point. It was just constant, $1 million a year, $2 million a year gains for a season. And the other thing people don't understand is that season is very short. That season is very short. And the spoils go to those who are prepared before it even happens.
Let's do that. Let's go there. Let's do this, Marty. All right. So here's some questions that I have. The tagging off of that. How do we get ready to acquire these spoils? How do we, and I'm not talking like, so of those who are listening, we normally have beginners and novices that are listening. We try to help out people on grassroots get going. Marty's starting to do more commercial stuff. I am doing more commercial type stuff. And I literally have been diving in, taking cues from you, Tom, and some other trainers are going, look, you want to know this stuff before like it really starts. Like you could collect stuff now. There's some good deals. But how do we get ready to collect the spoils? Like, what is something that you look and you just I kind of see this analogy of like, you're going to battle. There's the territory over there. you're rowing a boat, trying to get to that territory, and you're just seeing people just drop off left and right. And you get there and you realize there's not as many people here doing battle as you thought was going to be here, because they just dropping up. They're too busy buying things. Well, and I'm nervous. I'm just holding on to money, in some areas and some other stuff, and going, man, I could buy that right now. I could get that. Some deals are starting to pop out. So how do we get ready?
So case in point, back in that 2011 and 12 era I was talking about, 2012 in particular, I mean, brokers, high power brokers up in Houston, guys who, they got the big glass offices and all, they would call me up and say, hey, are you familiar with this complex? And I'm like, yeah, I know where that's at. And they go, drive by, tell me what you'd give for it. I don't even want to list it if you don't want it, because you're the only buyer we have right now in the county. Can you imagine that today? I mean, those same guys have lost my phone number years ago. They don't call me anymore. You only call me when nobody else will buy, right? So I haven't got those calls for years. Every time I see one of them at an event, I always say, hey, you still got my number in your phone, right? And they say, sure, I do, sure. And I'm like, you will use it again one day. And of course, they argue with me and say they won't, but I know it's true. I know they will. In order to get ready for a down market and to really capitalize on that and build your net worth, you want to do some prep right now. Number one, we've talked about getting your credit right. Doing everything in your power to get a higher credit score is helpful. I don't think it's the end of the world if you don't have it, though. I don't think it's the most important thing. The most important thing is having access to cash. I didn't say it have to be your cash. Having access to cash. So start building that reserve of capital that you have available to you right now. Be talking to people saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for. It's not available today. Tell them the story. Say, look, I know this is coming, and when it is, this is what I want to do. Do you want to be a part of it? And offer for them to participate with you. Become the expert, per se, in how to capitalize on that down market, and bring some guys with capital with you. And that could look a lot of different ways. You could structure that as equity. If you're going to do larger $1 million plus deals, I would say that's probably the right way to go. Give them equity in your deal for them to bring the capital, and you run the deal and make money together. That's certainly what we did. If it's going to be less expensive deals, then I would say structure it as debt deals. In other words, you just borrow that capital from them and pay them the payment, like we did on this house here. This was just a debt deal. I borrowed the cash. They gave me the money. We gave them an interest rate return on a monthly basis. And we did that with, practically, over 100 houses before we moved into the apartment space. So those are kind of the two ways to bring people along with you. And I would be building that now, telling that story now, getting people excited about it. And guys, I'm doing that to this day. We have our own cash. We have private equity funds that we raise capital in. And we're starting another one next quarter called the ILS Equity Fund. And I'm already out telling my current investors, hey, we got a new fund that we're going to be launching, and this is what we're going to be buying in that fund. And these are the returns that we're going to be targeting. Would you be interested in? Most of the guys that have already invested with us are like, heck yeah, we got more on the sidelines. I'd love to put some of that in there. It has a higher risk profile, but a higher return expected. So talk about those things with people that have money. Even if you don't have any, it doesn't mean you can't participate in the next coming down cycle.
Super good. Super good. I mean, I think that's like the most important thing right now is networking and talking to people, letting them know what you do, and being clear on what it is that you're looking for. And the intention of, hey, maybe not right now, but when it comes along, is this something you'd be interested in? I'm somebody who I find deals, I find real estate deals, and I marry them with high net worth individuals like yourself, and who maybe are getting a little bit leery of the stock market. Is that something you might be interested in, Tom? Right? So come up with like an elevator pitch of sort and start telling everybody that and practicing it. Is that kind of something you would suggest, Tom?
That's exactly what I suggest. Exactly. Okay. Exactly.
Awesome.
The other thing that I think too, and I know we got to go here. So the other thing that I would say is study what you think you're going to be targeting. Gabe and I were talking of this morning, and he may have heard this before, but he was still blown away by the fact that I don't ever do anything that I haven't studied for a year. It's a 12-month minimum for me. Before buying houses, before buying apartment complexes, before buying a meat processing plant, before private equity funds, before a lending company, anything that I own today, I've always put at minimum 12 months of study in before I do it. And I think that has served me well. We've had some losses. We've had some things that were bad bets, but we keep those to an extreme minimum because we do so much research and so much preparation before we jump into something. So if you think apartment complexes, let's just use that as an example since we've talked about it. If you think that's going to be your thing, then start learning everything you can possibly learn about apartment complexes right now. Start going out and doing tours. Start making offers, even if they get rejected. Start building your buy box. What are you going to buy? What would qualify for something Marty would buy? And build that buy box and then stick to that buy box. Don't deviate from it.
This is so good, Tom. We're gonna have you on again and again because I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, I'd love to have you keep coming on and just talking about what you see and where things are going and these little nuggets that it's great to have a guy who's seen a couple cycles. Because I was saying this to Gabe. I was like, I think I'm pretty good, right? I think Gabe's pretty good, but at the same time, I'm worried. Because I think you could have, and I have, bought deals and gotten lucky because of appreciation, right? And so I know that wasn't there back then. And I don't want to be, I don't want to be a one cycle pony. I want to be in this for the long haul, and I want to win. And I want the people around me, my partners, to win. So this has been very helpful and very useful. And it's been good to hear some things that I thought were true, and now they've been hammered home. So I appreciate you, Tom. Thanks so much.
Glad I could help, guys. It was fun for me as well.
Thank you so much, Tom. Guys, if you want more information, I'm going to put in the chat below in the comments and everything else for getting a hold of Tom. He's always active on social media, letting people know he does training. Tom, by the way, man, we get some pretty cool things like the whiteboard sessions and stuff like that. I know that it's a lot of time for you, but just a side note, like, man, that is so valuable when you just go, how does Tom assess a deal Tom's way? Right. Like, because most people don't know that, man, he was thinking about this. I do this because I'm your friend and we talk, and I'm like, Tom doesn't say stuff just haphazardly. Like, he really thinks this stuff through. So, and how you do those trainings is very helpful. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate it, Tom. Marty, we're about to sign off. If you guys need anything, by the way, if you like more of these, you want more of Tom, you might want more people like this that can just help you grow your business, let us know. If you have any ideas, whoever else you might want to have on or want to hear, we can get those on for you guys. We'll see you later. Peace.